Hello, everybody. I hope your day is starting out well. Welcome back to another episode of the Ramos Law Difference Makers podcast, where I, your host, Dr. Jim Hoven, have the chance to meet people and talk to people who are making a difference. And today, I have a story that is going to blow your mind. This person that is my guest today is not only a dear family friend, but my wife's longtime, one of her best friends since childhood. And now she's here for one of our family events. She was supporting our family. And while she was here, I could not help but ask her if she would please tell her unique and remarkable story. So when you hear this is going to basically blow your mind the way it blew mine, and it's going to open your heart to the possibilities of human healing and potential. So without any further delay on this, I want to introduce my guest, Angie Smith. Angie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jim.
It's so great to have you here. First, before we get started, I want to give a basic background, and then I'm going to have you tell your story because it's so powerful.
Perfect.
You're this busy professional. You're building a business that you've had for decades.
Yes.
Decades. And you're real estate appraising. Everybody knows you in your community. You're the go-to standard. You're, raising kids. You're doing all this. You're high-powered. You're going to all the cool events. And then something happens.
Yeah. Well, to me, in looking back, reflecting exactly what happened, which is what I'm asked the most, is how did you know? What was the very beginning of this journey? And I actually got COVID in July, and I don't think I ever completely recouped. Went through 3 weeks of COVID and then tried to struggle, get back onto the career mode and back to work. And now I'm still tired, exhausted, and slowly that exhaustion became more and more increased to where I'm sleeping most of the day. And at that time, my mind kind of disassociated that anything was wrong. It's just, I'm just exhausted. I still am feeling the effects or side effects of COVID. And I didn't think anything was wrong of it. I mean, even though I'm taking a shower, I'm not combing through my hair, which my hair was always been super thick and super long.
Long and thick.
So
yep.
I'd, wash it and just put it up, and I came over a month period like a Rastafarian in my
So your hair started getting
matted, but I'm still scrubbing it. I mean,
Yeah.
And come to find out, once it was all cut off, it was just full of conditioner, so, but my daughter, was dog sitting. And when she went on vacation, it's all quickly dropping off the dog. Love you, Mom. See ya. Thanks. And when she came back from vacation, spent a little bit of time, and she had noticed and called the other kids. I've got 4 children. And she had said, I think Mom's had a stroke, that there's something really, really wrong with Mom. And again, I'm completely clueless. I'm just at this point not able to really comprehend everything that's going on.
And did you realize that your function had diminished?
No, I didn't notice a thing. I mean, to me, it's just I'm tired. And
Yeah.
I slowly, it seemed like my age and it's just the capacity to understand went down
Yes.
to where I'm like elementary age comprehension. And the kids immediately took me to a local hospital who, ran some tests. And I'm completely oblivious. I don't even remember having the test run. And they're like, oh, we need to get up to a larger city, which was Indianapolis. And went to St. Vincent's through there, and they did MRIs, CTs, and evidently had told my children that, there's a possibility I'm never leaving the hospital, that this is very traumatic. I ended up having 2 very large brain tumors. 18 millimeters, millimeters, front left lobe, and then another one that was directly behind it, that if you Google your front left lobe, it controls your emotions, your ability to speak, to write. I mean, pretty much, I feel like the majority of the whole body is controlled
Yes.
By that. But I'm like 2 years old and happy-go-lucky. I'm in the hospital going, oh, I'm sick, okay. And will you hold a pen and draw? No, nothing's happening. I couldn't make eye contact. I couldn't complete sentences. And yet to me, okay, I'm just still this happy-go-lucky.
You're in a good place.
Yeah, I'm in a good place. And because it didn't resonate that, I'm handed this awful, awful diagnosis. And
Right.
what it ended up being is I have stage 4 lung cancer in my brain that presented itself by these 2 large tumors. Mm-hmm. They did find a little bit in one little lymph node right at the, I don't even know what this is called, but right below. So I had chemo and radiation immediately on that. They pinpoint radiated the 2 brain tumors that I have. And I go back 3 months later for a new MRI, and they're like, oh my gosh, we're so sorry to tell you, but you've got 10 additional tumors. And the last thing you expect to hear. And at this point, as the swelling had gone down in my brain, because that's really what set my brain was completely almost a full inch off to the side, displaced.
Just because of the swelling.
Just because of the swelling and these walnut-sized tumors that are, there's no extra space up in your... Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I started to get my wherewithal back within my mind. So I'm healing just emotionally and mentally in my ability to really comprehend what was going on and to learn the seriousness of this. And at the point when they had found the additional 10, I was coherent enough to go, yeah, exactly. So I immediately reach out to you guys. I do everything that I can possibly think of, along with the traditional medicine. I get into Asian medicine, peptides, just so many different supplements, qigong. Anything and everything. I did the Rick Stevens oil for cancer. I went to the keto for cancer diet, which is the 6 milligrams, and just started dealing with all the side effects of all the chemicals that were rushing through my body.
Well, I gotta ask you here, so let's rewind. So now we've gone a little bit about talking about what the issue was, where it came from, so from the lungs into the brain. And the lungs, as it turned out, didn't have
I have nothing.
Any problem.
Yeah, nothing in my
just
lungs.
Those cells originated there, migrated to the brain, and that's where they took hold and took root. When you got the diagnosis of the 2, I remember then they wanted to radiate those guys, basically try to kill them.
Right. And they put me, because they were so large, my brain was so inflamed, they couldn't do anything for a good month. They put me on 40 milligrams a day of steroids and sent me home. They sent me home this is right during... I spent Thanksgiving in the hospital, so I can't remember, like a week after Thanksgiving, they sent me home and said, look, you're going to be on steroids for a month. You can either go to an assisted living facility or one of your children is going to have to really move in and caregive. And my youngest moved in for 2 months. But for 30 days, I was on these steroids to get the swelling down where they could do the pinpoint on those 2.
And what did that doctor say? Because we've had a doctor switch, and I want to bring this up because I think it's important for patients and the doctors that listen to this show to hear exactly how you storytell and how you talk to your patients or your doctors, how it makes a difference. So that first doctor, give us that process.
The first doctors, and again, this is when my mind really wasn't clicking adequately or normally, were up in Indianapolis. And they were actually really, really nice. My radiation oncologist, which is kind of the one that walks you through the process of what's going on with your brain, said, we can do pinpoint. These 2, you're looking realistically at 3 to 6 months.
To live.
Yes. But there's a possibility I wasn't going to leave the hospital. Which is what they had discussed with my children. And at this time, that didn't resonate with me at all. This is all in hearsay. And he was completely nice. I had no problem disassociating from him. But when the treatment plan was devised, that was a 2-hour drive from me, and going, it was a 5-day-a-week treatment. And so it's like, well, let's switch down to closer to Louisville, which I'm an hour from. So it's, the
big difference.
And then finding within my insurance where I was transferred to, I was a number. They were not, I don't even know how to describe it. They weren't asking me how I was or how I felt. They just were not personable. And I'm okay with, I was okay with that. I was more concerned, but yet it would have been nice.
Take care of me.
Right.
I don't have to like you. You got to take care of me.
That was my mindset. Right. Yeah. And relatives were coming out to stay. Your wife would come out and stay. And they're like, oh my gosh, why are you staying with these doctors? Because they're not even reaching out And I'm just like, but it's the same treatment that's closer to my home. So I'd be able to see my kids more, a lot less. I couldn't drive. So relying on somebody to drive me to Indianapolis and back was just completely unrealistic. So that was the trade-off. Do I want to deal with people that I don't feel truly care about me versus the condition that I had, or travel to where I did feel.
So how did you then make that transition to the current team that you had? Because I know there was a big, like, something happened that really changed the game for you.
When I got the 10 additional, they were like, okay, this is really serious. This is specialty now. So now I was transferred across the river to Louisville to the Neuroscience Center, where I got really U.S. specialists helping me. So I'm assigned a brain tumor specialist, a cancer specialist, an oncologist specialist, and they're well known throughout the U.S. as being top notch. And oh my gosh, the most welcoming, wonderful. I mean, I feel loved that they care about me every time I walk in that door. And their offices were, if they tell me something that they're going to do, they do it. They will return a phone call. Where the problems I had before, none of their phone systems worked. I could never get through. I'd be told that, oh, you're going to be set up for an MRI. Never heard from them. I mean, it was just so frustrating to me. And so this was like a new thing. And then the first MRI that I had gone to do, because they were redoing all the tests, they're like, oh my gosh, we're sorry to tell you, but you have one more tumor that has shown up. So I now have a total of 13 brain tumors.
And so at that time, I'm interested to know your mental processing ability here, Angie. When you have 2 tumors, you're struggling cognitively to really understand what that means. The swelling comes down. Now you start getting more of yourself, who is a very driven, very goal-oriented, very systematic, very fact-based human being. That's who you are.
Yes.
Now all of a sudden, that stuff starts to come back. When you hear there's 10, you hadn't started treatment yet, right? On the 2, I mean, they started what they could.
They did
the pinpoint.
The pinpoint stereotactic is one time.
Yeah.
And so they did that, which is a really incredible process if anybody has ever even had any desire to look. But they make and mold this mask to your head, and you're bolted laying flat on a table. I had all this,
It looks like a hockey mask, hair. By the way. I saw it, and I'm like, holy crap. Or the Jason from the horror movies mask. Like, it's intense.
Right. It is super intense. And it's so confining, and that's where, like, if you're claustrophobic in any way, shape, or form, do you want us to put you under? And I'm like, no, I can handle anything that anybody can throw in my direction. And I think that that's really what kept me strong, is this positive. Things happen. There's a reason behind it. I don't know what the reason is. And trying to identify that, I just needed to slow down. Like you said, I'm a workaholic. I've worked my rear end off 7 days a week. With the onset of COVID, as being a real estate appraiser, my company just got bam, 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 and I'm a people pleaser. So, having been in the industry for 23, 24 years, you don't want to lose those clients, and you can't very well say, well, gosh, I'm too busy to be able to service you, because I would never get them back. I mean, that's just so disrespectful. So I ended up working from like 4 a.m. till 8 p.m., 7 days a week. And I really had hired people to do my grocery shopping, I didn't go out to eat. It was just, so I think really this happened to, okay, we're going to slow you down, Ange, regardless on you wanting to slow down or not, we're going to make that happen. And so I just, every day, from lessons from both you and your wife on going through gratitude, learning to live via my heart versus my head, going from, which I don't know if I'll ever get rid of that type A personality, but trying my best.
And that's great, though. We want you to build who you are. A lot of us would like a lot more of you, right? To say, how could I have that drive and that vision with balance? That's the key. And I am interested in, as you found the 2, they treat the 2, you're getting cognizant, you're thinking, things come back online, you're figuring out, what is this all about? You find out that you have another 10. Yeah. What is the emotion that you have? Because you just said a minute ago, hey, throw anything my way. I got it. I got this.
Right. That's the end result. And I always try and go back to that. I developed like what I call my wheel of life, which is my daily wheel. And it's acknowledging, it's accepting that, wow, I was handed this. Scary, scary, scary. I didn't know anybody that had gone through this. You Google anything to this, and the typical longevity is about 6 months. I had at the prior facilities that I opted to utilize, not the Indianapolis one, but the one that was in the closer, one of the radiation techs just like pointed right at my head and said, "That's what's going to do you in right there." And like quickly, and I stood there, turned around, walked out, and just bawled in the car, called my child and said, who says that to somebody? I mean,
yes.
There's zero compassion to how I'm feeling. And, you have side effects, the burns from the radiation, the smells, the tastes, you name it. And it's all super, super scary. So I tried my best not to Google any of it because I didn't want to know, join these lung cancer support groups. Although that's what this is, I feel like I don't have lung cancer because this is not my issue. This is my issue.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to do that. So then I started, Indianapolis University has a lung cancer support, or a brain tumor support group. So does the Neuroscience Center of Louisville, which is where I'm going through. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I just didn't want to hear the sadness and I just wasn't ready yet because I wanted to keep this 100% positivity. I'm going to make it through this. I am strong enough. And luckily my body was able to handle all the treatments without, there were moments truly where I couldn't get off the couch with just lethargy, being super, super tired. But, vomiting, all the nausea, I didn't really have any of that during my treatments. Now it's a different situation. But during the hard treatments, I think my body held up really well. My doctors were amazed at how strong I remained. I didn't really lose my hair. I didn't have any nausea, the rashes that you develop from radiation. And then once my radiation was complete, they did the 10, which was kind of the same process. Kind of funny story,
Yeah, because they pinpointed now 10 instead of, so they've done the 2, they do the process, now they hit all those guys.
Right. And one of the Indianapolis team had said, we're just going to irradiate the whole brain, 10's too many. And that would have really messed with my ability to function, at all, whole brain versus pinpointing. And even with where I have my tumors, like they did not surgically remove them because it really would have made it where I could have been a vegetable. Mm-hmm. I'd have a life left, but as a vegetable. So doing the pinpointing, and I'm super inquisitive. I'm very vocal. And I'm like, so I'd ask my doctor, so how many have you actually pinpointed before? 10 to me seems, because I've already had the 2 done, so they're just going to they're not going to touch the initial 2. They're just going to do the 10. And they said, well, how many have you ever done? And they're like, well, we had one patient who had like 28 that we've worked on. And then I just, I didn't ask like longevity, how long. I didn't want to know. I'm like, okay, cool. As long as you were able to successfully work on somebody with that many, and by successfully, I don't know what that means, but in my mind, that's success.
All good, I only got a third of what they had. Life is good.
Exactly. So, and it's still, even though I'd had it done before, it's still a very scary thing. These machines are, millions and millions of dollars you get put onto it. And these techs, they're just techs, age range, they're like my children's age. And even though they're educated and they're professional, they're still like kids to me.
Yeah, they're babies.
Yeah, right. So they're like, well, what kind of music can you put on? I said, anything but country. I just wasn't in the mood, anything but country. So they leave, and they put on headbanger music, like at high intensity volume. And I'm just like, okay, I'm like your mom's age, and I'm laying there, right? And I can't move my head. And I'm like, hello. And nothing. So I literally had to zone out, try to meditate over that. Yeah. So now I know I want the room to be quiet. I can deal with MRIs are super loud, but I want no music because you never know what they're going to put on for you.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking, what do I look like that kind of a person that would enjoy that? And it's a big fat no. But so that's my one funny story.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So
did you, when you decided the 10, did you make the conscious decision to, this is going to sound weird, but most people say they've got to fight cancer, kick cancer's ass, whoop cancer, or they just give up. But there's a third camp in there in the middle that says, I am focusing on health. I'm not fighting against something. I'm moving towards something. Did you find yourself mentally having to make a decision when you've heard that there was another 10? Because you could have said, oh, well, if it went from 2 to 12 in this few weeks, it's going to go from 12 to 100 in the next little bit. I'm done. Like, what was
none
your
of that.
process?
You know what? In all honesty, none of that went through my mind at all. It was always 100% positive. I mean, I never felt like, oh, is there an option? Is there a choice? Is there, again, the scariness of it, the why me, or no, it was never, it was like, oh, okay, so now I have 10. That's okay. I mean, really, that's what I said to myself. That's okay. I'm fighting this in the sense of within my body, healing, learning to live more in the heart, learning to self-heal. I mean, I signed up for all these Asian self-healing blogs and podcasts, and YouTube became my best friend on watching. I mean, every day I'd get up and do Qigong via YouTube, and same thing with internal healing. It was always 100%. I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And, my kids wouldn't want to see me upset, but this wheel of life that I call it, I'm acknowledging that, gosh, this is a serious issue, that I am going to have moments of where I'm just so tired, or if I do get like a side effect, because they're always very, very concerned. Once I had the pinpoint, the following week, I started with immunotherapy, and I'm doing a double dose, 2 different types of immunotherapy, and they hand you the most likely side effects from what's common to the severe, what will kill you. And you read these, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't know if I really want to read these,
yes.
But, please pay attention to any minuscule differences in your body. Please call and do this and this. And I don't want to say I'm anti-doctor, but I feel I would have to be really, really sick for me to go to the doctor. So a lot of these little things that I would feel, that's just normal. It's just my body reacting to having the chemo and then having the radiation and the immunotherapy. I didn't really feel that I was having any of these effects, thank goodness. Obviously, some mouth issues with gum and teeth became like a thing. Just do these daily rinses, and with really baking soda and water, no salt, and it would clear it up within a few days. And it's more not sores, which is a very common thing, but it almost like shrunk your gums to where I felt like my gums were concave almost.
Wow.
Really, really interesting. But again, a couple days of rinsing with baking soda, which is an amazing thing. Back to
power
normal.
Of baking soda.
Exactly. And so it's every day I have. When I developed, and again, during my incoherent period, seizures, I would have these seizures all the time, like 10 to 15 a day. And I could tell with the twitch of my knee and my leg.
That one was coming on?
No,
or
no,
you were in the middle of it?
I'm just thinking, I'm having, like a twitch.
Yeah.
And it didn't, because again, my brain is separated from way that I think to associate what was going on.
Yeah, it wasn't holistically working. It was only working in parts, your brain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I could tell that there was something going on with the twitch of my leg. And walking into the post office, bam, right on the ground, I'd go on the sidewalk. I never thought anything of it. And then again, as it progressed, and then to one of the kids, they're trying to talk me to go to the hospital. And I'm strong enough that, I'm just fine. I'm just tired. I don't need to go to the hospital. And then as I get up to go to the kitchen, I guess I was having like whole body shaking tumors, which I didn't feel or even know that I was having. Yeah. And then my kids were like, oh my God, Mom, your whole body's,
we got to take this.
Exactly.
Well, thank God they took that step, because they were the intervention that you needed, but you didn't see.
I would have probably, who knows what would have happened. I would have laid on the couch till somebody found me.
Yeah. Hey, tell me about your wheel of life a little bit more. Tell our audience, our viewers
sorry,
and listeners.
Getting sidetracked on that.
No. I want to hear about that, because I've been exposed to a thing called a wheel of life that I've shared with many people, where basically the wheel is a bunch of spokes, and each spoke is a different part of your life. So one is your health, one is your relationships, one is your financial world, right? So however many spokes you have. And if one of those spokes is really short compared to the others, your wheel will be dented, so it won't roll very smoothly. Okay. So that's the wheel of life perspective I have, but I'm really interested in hearing what your wheel of life looks like.
Yeah, so that's not what my wheel is like. My wheel is based on forward motion. The wheel is what gets you forward. And so to me, this path has always been, I am strong enough that I can survive longer than anybody who's ever had this diagnosis. I will be able to be the one.
You're that person.
Yeah, I am that person. And so to me, my wheel is my pathway forward. And I have to acknowledge what's going on, how I'm going to process that. And so sadness, but I always want to end up, when I process these thoughts, I want to always end up on a positive, because I think that means so much to have this positive outlook. It's all, I want to say, in the mind.
Yeah.
You're almost healing yourself with your mind.
How did you do that? How did you arrive to the concept where you could take a death diagnosis and pain and seizures and smell and taste alterations? How did you, through your wheel of life, you made a conscious decision in some way to say, I'm going to find the best in this? Because very few people ever listening to this are going to experience what you've experienced, but they're experiencing something similar in their own life that feels like so painful, so hard. Give us your process on how you make that conscious decision on positivity.
That's a hard one to just articulate. I think I've always been, with the past of my life, pretty difficult childhood, to being a single mom of 4 kids for 20 years. I've just been in situations where I have felt to survive, I have to be strong. So that strongness is just now, it's a natural. I don't have to think about that.
But it's not a negative strength, Angie. That's what I'm so interested in. You're not the person that I'm going to do this, blah, blah, blah. There's no anger behind it. It is with the positivity. It's so interesting that you're able to channel that, and it's fascinating.
And it's second nature to me now. Yeah. So it's not like, of course, I would sit and just try and get my hands on everything positive to doing keto for cancer. And I'm like, really? This is 6 grams a day? How am I going to survive off of this? Luckily, I love bacon and I love meat and, the certain vegetables.
Yeah, but 6 grams of sugar, by the way, is what she's talking about.
Yeah.
Very, very, very few sugars.
Yeah. But it gets old very quickly, you know? So, my doctors are like, they are thrilled that I'm taking my hands and I do peptides, I do other things, but they want to know, but then they don't really want to delve any further than just knowing on my chart that this is the stuff that I'm ingesting every day.
Did they encourage you to go outside the box with what we'll call alternative medicine, or did they try to
my
sway
main
you?
oncologist, the quarterback of my team, said that he has just heard amazing things about the keto, and the biggest thing is just keep that sugar out of your body,
because cancer loves sugar.
Yeah, feeds on it. So, and every time, just stay away. And I guess where I am, a lot of people don't eat like super, super healthy, and I've always been athletic and eat fairly healthy. I've not been addicted to sweets, although peanut M&Ms. But it wasn't, that to me wasn't difficult, giving that up at all. It was giving up the beans and the rice, and so they were really pro. You can have a cheat day. You could do this, and yet I was so gung ho and hardcore about I am going to do this. I'm going to fight this, which at this time, I'm being told is almost an impossibility. My quarterback oncologist has literally taken me by the shoulders. They're all huggers, which I love because I'm a big hugger, and said, you don't realize how much your athleticism and your attitude has helped you, because anybody else in your situation, either wouldn't be here or would be completely horizontal. And yet here I am playing 18 holes. I'm a little nervous with my port, but I'm out there playing 18 holes, and, I'm strong and I haven't lost my hair. And, he's just, you have no concept to what that has done for you.
Yes.
And he's like, take a day, have a cheat day, and don't feel guilty. And yet that was, and still is, I'm got this miraculous MRI this last 2.5 weeks ago. And so I'm like, okay, celebratory. And to me, celebratory means I'm going to go have Mexican food, and that's the one thing that I've mainly missed is my food intake. But I did break down in celebration of your son have a glass of wine for the first time. But those things before wouldn't taste good. Like, I tried to have a sip and it was just awful, because I think my mindset just locks in and then I don't think about it again. That this is my new diet. And
That's it.
I kept my pantry full of the things, they say, get rid of everything in your house that you shouldn't be eating. I've got, adult kids who come by. If that's the case, they would never want to come by. So I kept the pantry full of all the things that they love that I cannot touch. And I'm strong enough that, I just cruise right by them and go, yeah, nope. Okay, there we go up there.
Yeah.
And half the stuff that is made for keto is really awful tasting, truthfully, very bland and not to my liking. Maybe you may like it, but things that you make and cook, of course, you can doctor and make it taste fabulous. But I'm talking the chips and the crackers that you buy, just not my cup of tea in any way, shape, or form. So that's just been an experience on what is acceptable that I realize is going to be a part of for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I will pay attention to everything that I ingest.
Incredible discipline. Incredible.
Yes, yeah.
I want to switch gears now for a moment because you brought it up. The miraculous MRI.
Yeah.
Talk me through when you were going for that MRI. What
Just
did
the
you
feelings,
expect?
yeah.
What did you think? What did you feel? And then when you got the MRI.
Yeah. So I was assigned a new brain tumor specialist, and the way that she worded or vocalized her questions to me resonated differently than any other doctor. And she just said, look, Ange, tell me exactly how your body has felt in the last 30 days. And so truthfully, your taste buds get from radiation. Sometimes things taste burnt all the time. The next time you go to eat, everything tastes normal. It's sporadic. Just like, gosh, and if that's my new normal, that's fine. These smells that I get are to me of burning people, I can't wait till that goes away. Just being able to eat and not lose a pound a week sort of a thing. She's like, wait, back up. What do you mean these smells? And I said, well, I literally get these smells. It comes across as a wave, and it's not like lasting for hours, but, just for like a minute or two of where I'm literally smelling dead people. And they're like, well, how do you know what dead people smell like? And I said, well, I traversed India for a month. I mean, I am aware of what I'm smelling. And she said, well, we're going to stop right here. And, that is like brain tumor 101. That is a sense that you are having seizure notifications from your brain that we need to address right away. So she picked up the phone and called and scheduled me for an EEG, which is where they hook up all the,
The leads.
Yes, the leads. Thank you. And I had that done. On my way home, I get the phone calls. I mean, this is how quick the specialist, who was an epilepsy specialist, called. Instead of even waiting to send her the results, called my doctor and said, okay, this lady has some huge issues. Get her on these meds ASAP. And they're like, well, she's already on these meds, which is Keppra, double her meds. And I'm like, okay. So she's like, just take double what you normally do, and I'll call in a new prescription for you. And so as of that day, she said the first day is going to be tough, but because I'm switching from morning and evening to an extended release only in the evening of 2,000 milligrams a day. And the MIG side effect is just being tired. So I couldn't, I was incredibly tired at like 1 o'clock. I'm in
Straight
bed for
away,
the day.
like pretty much as soon as they started that dosage, it just knocked you down.
Changed me completely. And then she scheduled the MRI. So I'm dealing with just being really tired, this MRI, all of the smell stuff. I started getting these headaches, which is also a big, oh my gosh, something bad is going on with her brain, and so I'm scared. Is this the end? Is this the beginning of the end? I mean, is my fight not working? And I say my fight, just my regiment that is my daily who I am now. Is this my time? So I am horrified. And previously, my kids would go to all my CTs. Somebody would go with me. This MRI, I opted to go by myself. I don't know why. I mean, I didn't probably want to, but just the timing of it. It was a 6:30 a.m. appointment, which nobody wants to get up at 6:30 and do that. But yes, I was terrified, thinking that they moved my MRI forward by 6 weeks because of the smell, because of how the misfiring of the brain came back. It went pretty uneventful. I mean, an MRI is an MRI. And they said, just walk across the parking lot to my doctor's office, get a cup of coffee, because you'll be his first patient. Unfortunately, he doesn't come to work for another hour and a half. So I sat there, positive, but still terrified. And I didn't want to know. I'm thinking, I'm thinking the worst. And as much as I have been able through this entire journey to focus on the positives, there was just something that resonated, that there's something wrong. I mean,
Was that the low moment in this journey for you?
that's probably been my lowest moment.
Okay.
Yeah. Chokes me up just
Yes.
even thinking about it.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so my doctor walked in and he starts pulling it up, and they pull up my last MRI, which was only like 4 weeks before, and this one, and he's like, oh my God, he jumps up off his chair and comes and gives me a hug. He goes, check it out. This tumor zooms in and out, completely, 100% gone. I mean, like gone. So we went through all the 11 new ones, all gone. Like not even
Not a trace.
not even a trace. Exactly. The 2 big ones are half the size. They're dead. You know, it takes a while. My brain's still swollen, but the swelling has gone down. So I'm still, you know, I'm not back to perfect, and it's going to be something that I pay attention. And, you know, the first thing I come out here is pick your brain, Ramos brain. Like, okay, how can I help my brain to succeed in its, you know, in its size? And they're like, girl, you're talking 9 months into this.
Yeah.
Time. You just need time.
Yes.
And to me, time's not a concept. I mean, I want,
Let's get this done.
Exactly. I want to find out what my new normal is going to be.
Yeah.
And it's going to, I think, be an ever-changing thing. But I'm telling you, in the last week, I have felt like the switch of my meds. You know, my brain doctor actually called me on Friday out here to check to see how I was reacting to this new extended release, if it, you know, if I'm able to function in the afternoons. And I've been a rock star since I've been out here. I mean, I'm taking all these morning high altitude walks with you guys, and I just don't feel, I haven't crashed at once since I've been here with the blanket on the couch is what I mean. You know, I've just, I'm strong.
I'll tell you one thing that might be interesting, then I want to dive into your protocol a little bit, but I wonder, because you've been here, you've been giving so much of yourself to make sure, as we're dealing with what we've got going on as a family, you're here to support us, and you're giving in the same time you're receiving, where we're taking care of you with the arts that Shauna and I do, and you're around love. You're with us all the time, as opposed to living by yourself. I can't help but wonder how much that sense of bonding, community, giving and receiving makes in that process. But as part of that, I would like you to share, just so people are clear, the merging of Western in quotation marks medicine, because you didn't say, oh, screw Western medicine, I'm going to handle this all naturally, but you also didn't limit yourself to the box of conventional medicine here. You said, I'm going to take the best of both worlds after I do my due diligence to see what makes sense to me, what resonates to me. What was that journey as far as finding those things, and what were those things, and are those things, so that people listening can get an idea of sense that maybe things that they should explore?
To me, you're just doing 2 worlds. I have many worlds, you know, from traditional medicine to Asian to holistic. I mean, they're all different. And so every avenue is from essential oils to chakras. I mean, anything I could get my hands on, I wanted to find the most reputable in that arena and apply it to my life. And so from the very beginning, where I was on all these steroids and my sleep patterns were insane, I'd be awake for 2 hours and then I'd be asleep for 2 hours for 24-hour periods. I mean, there was no consistency to my sleeping. So I would try and pull things in at certain times. I have you guys, I have friends who are incredibly, there's a gentleman in Louisville who does a show called The Superhuman Radio, my best friend who is, like, to me, a specialist in peptides. So I have an amazing, healthy support group that would, like, here, try this, that would give me avenues to research. And I trust that certain things I didn't even research. I just went 100% off of, you know, what you said.
Yeah, recommendation.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Or I'd call and say, look, I'm thinking of this. What do you recommend? And a lot of these peptides, there's no directions to them. So how much stereotactic with this is my weight, this is my issue, you know, how much do I actually put in that syringe to, you know, those are things that you can't just Google and get the answer to, you know?
Hope not.
Yeah, no, you can't. So, it's been a journey that I've never second guessed anything that I've done. I mean,
and let's talk about that. What are those things specifically? Because here's the thing, you and I had a conversation when Sean and I came out to visit you as part of where we were going. We spent a couple days with you, And I remember making a comment, and you probably remember this too. You were such a hardcore worker, and you are still a hardcore worker, but you have switched where
hardcore now on positivity
on you,
within.
You're working on the project known as you, whereas before it was working to serve the people that you served. And so remember when we walked by your desk?
Yes.
And I said, wow, your desk is now dusty. Your desk is now, it's not used. But when we look at where your living space is, where you were going after your qigong, your meditation, your reading, taking up a new language so that you could travel and spending time there, like you literally devoted 100% of that focused effort, that tenaciousness that you have as a natural individual, and you flipped it. Yeah. And so to me, first of all, incredible job. And I'm so glad that you had the resources available to make that switch because of all your hard work, that you got to make that choice, but that you saw the choice. Because many people, they don't see that it takes work. You took it.
Yeah, I took my
level.
Full-time career and made my life my full-time job of healing.
So good the way you just said that.
Yes. So I did an about face on what was important to me. And to me, gosh, when Christmas came around, I hadn't bought a gift. I mean, I didn't have the ability to even drive yet, you know? And the day before Christmas, I'm like, what if this is my last Christmas? Because I didn't even want to think down that avenue. But the day before Christmas, I'm like, I haven't even put up a tree. You know, I'm going to have my grandkids here. I need to do something because there is that slim possibility that what Western medicine is telling me will actually transpire and that I'm not going to make it through this. And so, I'm quickly, I just had the kids take me down to the local store and, just got crap gifts for everybody.
Just to say I did it.
Yeah, exactly. Put up a tree with no lights, no nothing, but there's a tree. And so it made me feel better in that sense. And so it's been a progression as my mind has been able to connect and I've been able to actually look somebody eye to eye and carry on a conversation. It's done wonders for the rest of my body following suit.
Did you have any of the things you did? I'm going to list out the things that I remember, and you can fill other things. So we did the pinpoint radiation. We did some chemotherapy.
Radiation, yes.
And some medication, lots of different medications for different things.
Immunotherapies. Yes.
And then we also did qigong, which is a form of energy healing where you're just moving the body and moving the energy that they call qi. You've done yoga and meditation as part of that practice. You've taken supplements as part of that practice and peptides.
Essential oils.
Essential oils.
I pretty much have running nonstop in my home for, depending upon the time of the day, what it's focusing on. So I did research on what oils stimulate. It's what your brain functions off of. So anything that helps your brain, I've done everything throughout my home to benefit that. Picking a language, which you guys turned me on to, this Duolingo. Let's do this. And so I'm already fluent in Spanish and I can speak a little bit of French, but I chose Hindi, which is to me the hardest language
I'm going,
ever.
What are you thinking?
No, but that to me just resonates on the ability of my brain to connect. I wanted something that would actually be challenging for me. And oh boy, has it been a challenge. But I can officially say that I can say silly things like, the giraffe is walking on the road. I can't say, can you bring me the check, please? I'm not learning the right things in Hindi, but, certain things. But
so we listed out 10 things right there.
And then walking.
And walking. Oh, sunlight, walking.
Exactly.
So that's a dozen.
Yeah.
Is there one or two of those things that you felt were really outstanding?
That if I could only choose like a few things that, you can no longer do all of these things, that you just need to focus on a few that are the most important, I firmly believe. I take a peptide called thymosin alpha-1, 10 milligrams that you inject. That is based 100% on keeping your immune system functioning. And that is all about healing, getting positive, just staying strong. That I feel is huge. The Qigong meshed with walking positiveness, which I do these affirmations and meditation along with while I'm doing that. I kind of roll it all into one. I feel that I really believe that the Rick Stevens oil, the RSO, which is THC, is that okay? So it's a super strong dosage that it's a whole regimen. So if you look up Rick Stevens oil, it's a whole, THC for cancer sort of a thing. I feel that, and then I take an incredible amount of ginger. That is, those are the three things that you would literally have to run me over with a car to stop me from doing those things daily. Those are the three main things that I really feel, obviously along with Western medicine. I wouldn't give up my immunotherapy. Yes. I feel the 13th tumor was never radiated because it wasn't seen. And they felt that it was there, but I guess that there's the particular size of it and where it was located, which is smack in the center. It just wasn't. They claim
wasn't
again,
worth it.
Yeah, it wasn't seen and it wasn't radiated. But with the immunotherapy, it's gone. Nice. So somebody says, so what is it that did? How is it? What do you feel? And not to say cured me, but I am currently disease free. Still a swollen brain, still seizures, but disease free currently, and hopefully forever. What did it? I think it's a culmination of all of them. I think it's a culmination of all of them. And I don't feel I've missed out on anything. I think I have literally tried, and not just tried, but consistently worked for months with each to see if it fit and resonated with me and made me feel better. Now, as far as, these headaches that I get, that's what we're going to address and work on the minute I get back. My doctor's like, call me, we'll get you in, and then we'll address the headaches. Because in identifying what is the most important to feel what is the new me, it was getting rid of the lethargy, being able to be up and vertical for an entire day like I used to be able to, or like what I would consider a normal person. And not to say that I'm not normal, but I am forever going to have this challenge that I'm up for.
You're forever changed.
Yeah.
What have you learned as your primary lesson or lessons from this? Is there anything that you're saying, because it's obviously not why me, that never crossed your mind. Yeah. Is there something that you've come away with from this journey to this point that you'd like to share with us?
I think that it has brought out a level of compassion in my heart that I would never acknowledge was even there before. So I'm looking at things differently, and I have put out there a little quirp on some social media that if I can help guide somebody. I have a friend who had prostate, and so I would call him like, okay, I'm going to have a port, I'm having a port put in tomorrow, is it going to hurt me? Or, and so I had somebody that I could reach out to that has gone through minimal, but has gone through something similar that I could rely on. And I'd hang up the phone and a sigh of relief. Okay, I'm tough. This isn't going to be bad. It's an easy thing. And he golfed all the time because that was a huge fear of mine. So I wanted to put that back out there. If anybody knows or has a family member that doesn't have somebody that can answer questions on what it's going to be like going in for CTs, going in for MRIs, because these are big machines and they're scary, or having a port put in, or going through immunotherapy, what to think. I'm here. I'm happy to talk to, and I would rather do that to guide one person versus being in which I've yet to do, the big Zoom meetings of brain tumor groups. I can't bring myself to do that yet because I don't want to be inundated with the negativity that goes along with that I experience. And because I am a holy crap, get tape on that girl's mouth. I mean, I just have a mouth that doesn't close. And so when I'm in the waiting rooms, which, they're really quick, so it's not like I have a whole lot of time in the waiting rooms of my oncology departments, just the visualization that you get is huge. Seeing the trauma that these people, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm in that same boat, but I certainly don't have the same experiences that they do. And I don't want to, I'm afraid to be put into a Zoom group with 50 people, if there is that many. Some, I have a feeling, there's not a whole lot of brain tumor groups because there's not a whole lot of success. Right. I have another acquaintance that just went through MD Anderson and was told that the immunotherapy that I'm on is 40% successful. And I'm like, what? And I mean, I was probably told that, but my mind wasn't registering it. And so when I'm listening to his tape, I'm thinking 40%, oh my God. And it's gotten rid of, the culmination of everything. I am now 100% my tumors are good. And so I clearly fall in that 40, but I will be in the 2 or 1% who will survive the longest on this ever because I'm not going to ever give up. I will dictate when it's time, when my life is fulfilled enough that I can't offer services or benefits or anything to anybody else, then maybe it is time for me to close my eyes. But that's a way long time in the future as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah.
And you have inspired me today. I know that you've shared from your heart, which you always do, and so articulately and so beautifully. Is there one piece of advice that you've learned or come across, maybe it was before this journey, that helped you get through it, besides never quit and the wheel of life? Is there something else as kind of a parting thought that you would like to leave with me and with our audience that you've just felt to be a foundation of this masterpiece of a life that you've created?
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. And I think the most important thing, at least in my own mind, and again, I feel I don't know what goes through other people's minds, especially in any kind of an illness situation, is to know that it's okay, that you are strong enough to stay positive, and that positivity will it will just inject positivity throughout your body.
Compound,
so
multiply.
Yes, I mean, that to me is the biggest thing, is just stay positive, and it will come back at you.
Well, I'll tell you what, you've made me a better person, even again after our time together today. Yeah. So, we're always in your corner. We're here for
and you are. I mean, I aspire to have the compassion and just the sensitivity and things that you wear openly on your sleeve. Now, I've always been a pretty quiet person when it comes to the depth of who I am as a person. I mean, I'm very vocal in socialization aspects, but getting to know the real me was always something that was very, very difficult to do. And this has completely changed that. I'm learning. I'm an open sleeve.
Open book.
Yes,
so good. Well, you're a beautiful human, a beautiful book, and what a great story that you have. And again, I know that everyone listening is going to continue to send you thoughts and prayers of love and healing and success. And this has just been great. So you keep making a positive difference, okay?
Thanks. Yeah, thanks. It means the world. I have everybody's support. So
awesome. Yeah. Big hugs after this.
Likewise. Yeah, thank you.